John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hey there, this is John Ulzheimer. I am a consumer credit expert. I've spent almost 30 years in the credit industry. I spent time at FICO, which is the company behind the FICO credit scoring system, and Equifax, which is the company, they're one of the three generally recognized credit bureaus in the United States. And today we're gonna answer a question that's got a lot of meat on the bone, so let's get right into it. Does paying off a collection help or hurt my score? Or, you can phrase it any number of ways. Does paying a collection help my score? Is it worth paying a collection? So number one, you should always pay the debts that you owe. So I'm universally gonna say, gonna take that position. If you owe a debt, you should pay the debt. And if it happens to be a debt that's being collected by a debt collector, then you should pay it if you actually owe it. Whether or not it's gonna help your score is a different, it's one of these weird questions in credit scoring that is gonna be almost universally, it depends. It's gonna depend on a variety of things. So number one, if you have a collection on your credit report, it may or may not be hurting your score in the first place, okay? So collections are either neutral or negative, meaning that if you've got 20 collections and you pay off one of them or have one of them removed, you still have 19 collections. So in that scenario, it's gonna be neutrals. So paying it, getting it deleted, is gonna be immaterial to the consumer's credit score. So there are gonna be some scenarios where if you pay off a collection, if it remains on the credit report, then your credit score is probably gonna stay the same because you still have a paid collection on your credit report. If, however, you're able to get it deleted from the credit report, which does happen in some contexts. So in other words, you may be able to get, for example, a medical collection removed if it's being paid by the insurance provider. That's a new rule in credit reporting standards, is that if a medical collection is being paid or has been paid by an insurance policy, then the debt collector is supposed to remove it from the credit report. So in that scenario, then yes, your score could go up, but only if that collection was having a material or a measurable impact on the consumer's credit score in the first place. So here's another one. Like I said, there's a lot of meat on this bone. In the more contemporary credit scoring systems built by FICO and VantageScore, collections that have a zero balance are ignored by the scoring system. Even if they cosmetically remain on the credit report, the fact that they have a zero balance, meaning that they've been paid, is going to cause the credit scoring systems to ignore it or bypass it. So in a scenario like that, paying a collection is absolutely going to help because it's going to cause it to now have a zero balance. And, well, let me rephrase that. It might help. It's going to cause the collection to have a zero balance and therefore be ignored by some of the newer scoring models. So to the extent that that collection was having a negative impact in the first place, the fact that it's now being ignored is obviously going to be helpful to the consumer, because now it's essentially like it's not even on the consumer's credit report, even though it is still physically present on the consumer's credit report. So this can kind of be confusing to a consumer, because you go from having a credit report with an unpaid collection to now a credit report with a paid collection that's still on the credit report, but now the score goes up. And your assumption may be that, balances on collections are meaningful in credit scoring systems, which is not true. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that there was a balance of whatever, X, $100, $1,000, whatever. What is really important is the fact that credit scoring systems have been essentially re-engineered to ignore collections that have a zero balance. And so I realize that it's kind of splitting hairs a little bit. It's not really the balance that was material. So some people think, if you've got a $5,000 collection, that's worse than having a $1,000 collection because the balance is so much higher. No, it's not like consumer debt, like credit card debt, where that really can be a thing. For collections, it's binary. There's either a balance or there's not a balance. It doesn't really matter what the balance is. What's really more important is the fact that there's a collection on your credit report, which tells a story of you defaulting on a debt with some other creditor, and they have to hire a collection agency to track you down for payment. That's really the issue. So the answer to the question is really going to vary based on the type of collection, whether or not the credit bureaus remove that type of collection once it's been paid, and also what generation of credit scoring system is being used to calculate the consumer score. So the answer could be yes, the answer could be no, and the reason for the answer to be yes or no can be different in every different scenario. So this is one of those situations where it's really complex and you kind of need to sit down and think about what type of collection is it, what type of credit score is being used, and is the collection being paid by an insurance policy or is it not? So if that answers your question, then I'm super happy about that. If you have any other questions about collections and the impact on credit scores, drop them in the comment section below. I appreciate you watching. Have a great rest of your day.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.